Today I've got a story I am 100% sure you will enjoy, so make sure to stick through the end because it is getting very juicy. And before I forget, if you want to be featured on this channel, you can send in your own story, and you can do so by mailing me at rushbusiness@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So today's story takes place when I was about 15 years old, and I came into this new class with a lot of cool peeps. And one of my classmates, it was a little guy, like he was smaller than the other guys in my class, but he had like the biggest mouth in the class. He was very talkative. And the juicy part of this kid was actually the son or like one of the sons of our school counselor. Now, our school counselor was a fantastic woman, but she was very timid and she had very much trouble to like discipline most of the kids in our school. Plus, she also was our math teacher. So anyways, her oldest son was also in the same high school, but he was 2 years older than this kid and 2 years older than me too, because I was in the same class as this kid. And the older brother, he was very smart and he was very also kind of timid, also kind of introverted, you can say. And the older brother had a fantastic behavior. He had a lot of friends. He had a girlfriend. Everything was great. But the younger one, the small one, well, let's just say that his personality was probably genetically more closer to his dad, even though I didn't really knew their dad. But yeah, the smaller brother, I mean, he had very sus behavior all the time. And he had even more friends because, he was extroverted. And he was like into hockey. He was into soccer. He was like in the school soccer team. And yeah, let's just say that he did a couple of very weird decisions in his life, from which one was, the main theme of this story. So yeah, I actually heard a lot of rumors about this guy smoking weed at like the school ground, but I never really saw him doing it. But a lot of people and more people were starting to say that he actually did do it during the lunch breaks. And he was like standing behind the school building. So there's not really a way for teachers to really see what you're doing out there. I guess he thought to himself, even if I get caught, maybe my mom will, loosen my sentence a little bit, or maybe I will not get any detention at all, because I have this special position in this school because my mom is also a teacher at this school. Anyways, more often than not, a lot of people say that weed can be sort of like a step up to like other drugs, which are more extreme. And I mean, it's not always the case for everyone, but for this kid, I mean, it definitely was, because you see, in a while, in like 2 months, we were supposed to be headed to a museum in like a school trip. And I mean, at that age, I was 14, 15, something like that. At that age, museums are really boring. Like, you don't really know what to do in that museum. You're like really impatient to watch all the exhibits. And I mean, now that I'm in my 20s, of course, I enjoy a museum. Of course, I enjoy watching in tranquility and kind of daydream my way into it. But back then, I mean, I don't think anyone of our classroom really wanted to go on that museum school trip. It was just, we just knew that it was gonna be boring for our puny 15-year-old brain. And I don't have to tell you twice that teenagers, if they are bored, they can do some stupid stuff. I mean, I really sound like a boomer now, but I promise I am not one. Anyways, it is the day of the school trip. All of us are entering the school bus ready to go, and I didn't really notice anything weird. Like, everyone was pretty quiet and there was barely any shenanigans going on in the bus, except at like the very back of the bus, like a bit to the right, where the main subject of today's story was situated together with his friends. And like me and my best friend, we were like at the front of the bus and we heard some murmurs going around to the back of it. And because we were sitting kind of like almost next to all the teachers, there was barely anything happening in the front. So we didn't really quite know what was going on. But like at that time, I just thought to myself, well, it's just regular banter, man. Like nothing else is gonna happen. What else is gonna happen during this trip? Like this is just gonna be one boring ass school trip. But God, I was so wrong. And thank God I was, because now I have juicy content to tell you guys, a juicy story to share with you. Anyways, after an hour, we arrived at the museum and everything was well. Considering how long the trip was, it was kind of a miracle that nobody was really grouchy or like tired. Like everyone was like full of energy. And I mean, considering if it was the early afternoon, it's not really a surprise. So anyways, we got off the bus. We were the first ones because obviously we were at the front of the bus. And then at the very last moment, the guy and his friends, they went out of the bus last because they were in the back of the bus. So I looked at him and I noticed that something was off. Something is not quite okay with him because like he was not looking very good. Like he was looking like he was dozing off or like daydreaming, but like to the extreme, Like it literally looked like he was just frozen in his body and he didn't quite understand what was going on around him. And all of a sudden I heard his friend say, "Yo dude, are you alright?" And he kind of like snapped his fingers around his face and like waved in front of his face to see that he just completely didn't notice him at all. And I was like, this doesn't really look too good. Maybe he's just not feeling well. And I mean, a couple of other kids noticed that too. And one of the girls in our classroom, she went to the teacher and told him that, the guy was not feeling well. Like maybe he's not okay at all. Maybe we're not supposed to go in yet before he, feels better. And basically the teacher came up to him and at that moment, it's like he woke up, man. Like the teacher had such an aura around him, such an evil aura for him. Because quite frankly, like, it kind of sounded like he didn't want to get caught, if you know what I mean. I mean, okay, let's be honest here. I already knew that he probably took some drugs, but I didn't quite know what it was yet. And yeah, moving on. So anyways, we entered the museum and everything was well. And I still looked at him like I was just so infatuated with this guy because I just know like things are gonna get wrong, like things are gonna go wrong so quickly. Because let's be honest here, looking at him, he was just spacing so hard, man. Like I honestly thought that he smoked weed again, but then again, you can't smoke weed in a bus, like that's just not possible. So then I thought to myself, maybe he is really feeling, down and under the weather. Maybe he's just sick, or maybe he has got food poisoning or something like that. Because he literally went to the toilet every 10 minutes, so that's also an indicator that it might be food poisoning and not something else. So yeah, after a while, like the museum was actually like a really big square, or I guess like a rectangular room, and like right in the middle there was this really small kind of statue, but it was really expensive, like don't get me wrong, and it was like gold plated and it has this weird kind of vibe to it. But I mean, you could clearly see that this statue is just so expensive. Like I would never be able to buy this in a million years, And we also had this tour, this audio tour where you have to wear headphones and listen to what the tour guide has to say to you. So eventually, all of us were standing right before that art piece, the very expensive one. And the tour guide, I mean, he went to the bathroom, he went away. And like, we were standing here and literally the worst thing ever happened. I mean, it was quite funny that it happened, but it was also like the worst thing ever at the same time. So turns out that the guy was not feeling very well and he was for some reason standing right in front of the entire group, even though I mean, it would be probably for the best if he would be closer to the toilets than anyone else, but alas, he didn't do that for some reason. Oh my god, so at that moment, I mean, it's such a nice memory to remember. I mean, this is like what high school is all about, the small stuff, the stupid stuff. Anyways, he just, I saw his hands go right in front of his mouth. I thought like, okay, this is it, he's gonna vomit. And unfortunately, he did. He literally vomited over like a little tiny piece of the statue and like the stand the statue was standing on. And I was like, oh no. And everyone was like, oh, that's so disgusting. That is so gross. And like he just ran towards the toilet and like we didn't see him like very much after that. But yeah, this was totally ridiculous. Like he just vomited all over the statue, and it was just so funny. And like everyone was murmuring and like kind of half screaming, laughing, whatever. Like it was just chaos at that time. And the tour guide was honestly just shocked. Like it's like he literally dropped the statue on the ground, you know, on the stone ground, and it shattered, but actually was just vomited on. And like the tour guide was just shocked that this just happened right in front of him. And at that moment, I am standing there, turned my head to the right, and his friend, his best friend, was standing there, and he just muttered in himself, well, it seems that the pill wasn't such a great idea. And I was like, pill? What pill? What pill are you talking about? And he was like, oh shit, I didn't see you there. I was just talking to myself. Never mind me. I was like, no, wait a minute, dude. Like, just tell me, what did he do? What pill was he swallowing? And he was like, well, I mean, I'm only gonna tell you this because I know we're pretty good friends. Like, I mean, to be honest, we knew each other pretty well. And he just went up to my ear and whispered in my ear, he took an ecstasy pill. And I was like, what? Seriously? Like, why would you ever do that? That is like the stupidest thing to do. But I mean, I kind of did see it coming because judging by who he was, you know, the experimentalist, the extrovert, I kind of was like, yeah, this is just like him, right? This is just like him. Anyways, after that school trip, pretty much the entire school knew what happened and what he actually did. And of course, he didn't really get into much trouble after that because his mom was the school counselor and the math teacher. So she was pretty important for the school. So yeah, double standards, right? Like, he didn't get in trouble at all. However, his reputation, or like the small reputation that he had, was tarnished pretty significantly. And after a while, people kind of forgot about it, to be honest. But then after a couple of years, when we graduated high school, that was just the joke. Like, the main joke of the graduation was like the museum school trip 4 years ago. So yeah. The best way to support my channel is to binge watch my story videos. They are showing up on screen right now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash the like button. It would mean the world to me. Subscribe if you are new on the channel, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.